Hello and welcome to Unscripted. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to bring in our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix, because Joe, we're almost in October and it feels like we're almost in August because it is really nice outside and feels very warm. Are these warm temperatures sticking around for a bit?
Yeah, a little cooler midweek, but by cooler, we're going from the 70s to like the upper 60s in some spots. And then we're going to get right back into the 70s and 80s again late week. So briefly cooler Arcadia is the best way I describe that. But it was warm. It was 82 in Grayling today, which is like you said, kind of July, August type weather out there. The other thing too, it is dry, beautiful days. Don't get me wrong, lots of sunshine, but we probably could use a little bit of rain, especially our southern areas. We'll take a look if there's any on the way and look at the rest of the week coming up a little later.
Thank you, Joe. And for our top story tonight, it's a day after the horrific attack that left 4 innocent people dead and 8 others injured at a church in Grand Blanc. Lives destroyed and a place of worship left in ashes. Now everyone is looking for answers as to why it happened. Mike Woolfolk brings us the latest on the investigation.
This was an evil act of violence. That's exactly what this was.
Police Chief Bill Rennie not mincing words in describing what unfolded in his tight-knit community on Sunday. He and other law enforcement officials updating the investigation. We know the suspect is 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford, a Burton resident, shot and killed by law enforcement at the scene. ATF says agents are examining multiple explosive devices that have been recovered, and the FBI says they have many resources here in Michigan and across the country assisting the investigation, but they're providing few specifics.
We are continuing to receive leads. We're continuing to run down all information. And once we're able to ascertain definitively what we have, that's when we'll make those statements.
In addition to the gunman, 4 people lost their lives to this violence. 8 others suffered injuries.
In the active shooter of the church.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer says, sadly, Michigan knows this pain all too well after shootings at schools, stores, parades, festivals, and places of worship.
These are places that we go to feel connected, to feel safe, to be together. But today, this place has been shattered by bullets and broken glass.
The governor also thanking everyone who rushed in to help save lives.
I need manpower up here ASAP. I have people trapped in the building.
Dr. Michael Danick is the medical chief of staff at Henry Ford Genesis. He says they have resident doctors who were on site, but also LDS church members.
They were heroes. Those on the scene were absolute heroes, going in and out of the fire to drag people out, helping each other take care of the victims on the scene.
We are a community, and I am confident that together we're going to build a stronger community due to this incident.
That was Mike Woolfolk reporting. And to talk a little bit more about this attack and the day after, we're going to invite Courtney Bennett with WEYI, our sister station downstate, to talk a little bit about this. Courtney, thanks for joining us. You've been working on a story today as well that we'll have closer to at 11 tonight. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is going to be, that report's going to be about?
Yes, so we're learning more information about that suspect in this shooting, Thomas Jacob Sanford. We actually talked to a man who's running for Burton City Council. So Sanford actually lived in Burton. The man that I talked to, he actually had an encounter with Sanford last week while he was out just campaigning. He stopped by Atherton Road. That's where Sanford lived. Stopped by, there was a man in the driveway. They had about a 20-minute conversation. Then last night, this man, Chris Johns, who is running for city council, he was watching TV, immediately saw the picture and said that he was 100% sure that that's the man who he had a conversation with last week in his driveway. The conversation, though, is what was kind of startling, shocking, surprising, because it had to do with the Mormon faith. That's what the conversation, for the majority of it, centered around. So we talked to him earlier today. So that's what the story that everyone will see later on tonight on your newscast at 11.
Yeah, absolutely. And this isn't your first day, on the ground right now. I know you worked to gather information yesterday as well. What can you tell us about what you've learned and how things kind of unfolded yesterday and into today?
Yeah, so yesterday, things started to unfold at around 10:25. That's when the first 911 call came in that there was a shooting and this incident that was happening at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on McCandlish Road. That's in Grand Blanc Township. Within seconds, there was actually a Grand Blanc Township police officer as well as a DNR police officer who immediately responded to the scene. And then by 10:33, according to police, that's when the suspect was shot and killed in the back parking lot of the church. But as this was unfolding, that suspect actually shows up at the church, drives through the church wall using his truck, that's according to police, and then proceeds to shoot multiple people. And what the ATF is saying today is that he intentionally set the church on fire as well. We do know that unfortunately people have died in this. So in total, including that suspect, there's been 5 deaths. There's many people that are still in the hospital right now that are recovering from both smoke inhalation and then also from being shot. So it was for law enforcement who responded, who I talked to, they said that they had to all work together, and they did work together. They worked together very well to kind of encompass the scene, because there were hundreds of people inside the church yesterday worshiping. And then just for that to unfold, just the heroism from law enforcement who were first to respond to that scene, that's what the chief of police said saved lives actually yesterday, is they immediately went in and they just started helping people because the church was on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a lot of reaction from lawmakers, but also from residents that we've seen from WEYI's coverage. And, from the heartbreak to not wavering in faith, from what you've seen on the ground, how are people responding into today?
People are really coming together. I was just driving through town because I was coming from, again, that suspect's house. I had a live shot at 6 o'clock for our newscast, and driving through Grand Blanc City and then also the township. There's a lot of Grand Blanc Strong signs, and this community is very close because all of the community, they work together. The kids all go to the same school. So there's a lot of that going on. And there's actually a visual that's happening at 7 o'clock tonight that I'm in the parking lot for right now. And there's already a lot of people that are gathering here and just to pray for everyone.
Yeah, and Courtney, on this show, we always have a question of the day, and today's is, has your church implemented any safety measures? And I'm wondering, have you guys had discussions? Do you know if there's discussions at churches around that area about implementing such measures?
What's interesting is that after the incident that happened down in Wayne County at that church in Wayne, Michigan, I actually spoke to churches and also security experts around this area, and they said that they had been actively training churches in what to do in a situation like this. That's actually a question that came up last night during the 8 o'clock press briefing that we had with law enforcement. Is someone asked, is there an armed officer inside of the church? And at the moment, the chief of police just couldn't answer that. So it's really unknown if there was, someone armed in that church. But there are a lot of churches that undergo active shooter training. They also have, armed police, armed security that are inside these worship places for people, whether it's on a weekend service or during the week. So that is ongoing right now.
Yeah, and before we let you go, is there anything else, whether it's about your story or just the entire situation altogether, that you would like people to know?
One of the big things is that both law enforcement and just community members, as well as the township supervisor, is that they just wanted to make a point that they're thinking about all the victims right now and obviously their families, and just the true act of heroism yesterday in that church. They talked about the churchgoers who went and they protected the kids as, gunfire was erupting from this shooter and as a fire was happening, and they really protected each other, and they made sure that people were getting out of that church safely. So that's one thing that really stood out to me, is just the heroism of people that were inside, and an absolute tragic and horrific situation that no one wants to be a part of, but they really went into action yesterday, and the chief of police said save lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Courtney Bennett with WEYI, thanks so much for taking some of the time in your evening to talk about this. And we're going to take a quick look at our question of the day. I mentioned it during our conversation, but again, the question of the day is, has your church implemented any safety measures? If you want to weigh in on that question, you can scan the QR code on your screen, or that question is available on our Facebook page or our website, UpNorthLive.com. The City of Cadillac's Local Development Finance Authority is being investigated. The investigation comes from accusations that in the past, the board did not follow Michigan's Open Meetings Act. As our Allie Baxter reports, after state police confirmed the investigation last week, the Cadillac City Attorney says the key is if the violations were intentional.
State police wouldn't conduct an investigation if they thought it was frivolous.
When we last spoke to Cadillac resident Brad Marine in March, he was urging the Wexford County prosecutor to investigate past actions of the city's LDFA board, alleging the board at one point wasn't following their own rules or keeping proper records.
The bylaws are the bylaws, and the law is the law. You just can't arbitrarily decide what part you're going to follow and what part you're not going to follow. The amount of dysfunction is rather amazing.
Since the board is responsible for overseeing groundwater cleanup at the city's industrial park, some residents have said they believe previous missteps by the board are the reason the PFAS issue the city is dealing with didn't get out to the public sooner.
There's still the whole PFAS issue, which I think that's going to continue to grow.
This summer, Marine was informed by state police they are investigating the board to determine if they did violate the Open Meetings Act. The Cadillac City Attorney says they've been cooperative with the investigation.
Pretty confident that there were no intentional violations of the OMA. I mean, that's what MSP would be investigating, and there aren't any because there weren't any.
The city attorney says to his knowledge, there's never been an allegation that the LDFA members were meeting in secret.
The hallmark of the OMA is notice and the ability of the public to attend meetings. To my knowledge, nobody's alleged otherwise. They've alleged things like, well, you violated your bylaws. Well, there are civil remedies for those.
The current board members say they are trying to recover decades of missing meeting minutes. Cadillac's utilities director has said that some of the past meeting files had been corrupted. The city's attorney says this isn't surprising or suspicious considering how old some of the files are.
They want to use the criminal system to allege a violation of the OMA, which must be intentional. Well, there's no intentionality. And I defy anybody to find intention to evade the requirements of a public meeting. It just didn't happen.
A small strip of lakefront property in Harrison is stirring up controversy. Residents say it's been publicly accessible for years, but now they're learning it could be sold to a private buyer. As our Tony Lundy tells us, the land has been maintained like a public park, but is never actually city-owned. When officials realized that maintenance stopped and the property was turned back over to the school district, which is now considering selling it.
What looks like a quiet lakefront spot is ground zero for a growing debate in Harrison.
So got brought up originally because, throughout the history, we didn't understand why we maintained the property in the first place. If you look at the property ownership on like a GIS system, it shows it's owned by Harrison Schools. So once the lease was identified, it became a council decision. I don't have the authority to break leases or anything like that. So I brought it before council with several things to think about.
Once the city backed out, residents say they were blindsided to learn the school district might sell the land, trying to take quick actions within the community to stop it.
Well, this weekend we have got out and passed flyers out in the neighborhood, trying to notify people. And it was amazing talking to several neighbors throughout the neighborhood here that had no clue that this was going on. We're trying to get them to stop the sale and revisit it. And the council informed us that they would try to get a hearing together before the school board meeting.
The school board is expected to review a bid next week. If that sale goes through, the public could lose this access point for good. And city officials say the land would require major investment to bring it up to modern accessibility standards.
Thanks to our Tony Lundy for that story, which does bring us to our first break of the show. When we get back, we'll check back in with Chief Meteorologist Joe Charlevoix about what's to look forward to in the rest of your work week forecast. Keep it here.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Welcome back to Unscripted. It is Monday, and it's not a bad day outside to start the work week. Hopefully you got a chance to get out a little bit, but if not, Joe, our chief meteorologist, you say those nice warmer temperatures might stick around for a little bit in case you didn't get the chance to go out today.
Yeah, most of this week, we're going to cool down a little midweek. So, maybe at 80 today, you might be like 67 on Wednesday, but then you're going to be back up to 80 on Friday again. So little cool down midweek.
Yeah.
But beautiful blue skies. Let's take a look. This is in Leelanau County earlier today. Flying over some of the vineyards there, near and just south of Sutton's Bay. So that's near Sutton's Bay there, but can't even find any clouds out there on a beautiful start to the week. The weekend was nice too. I mean, we had lots of sunshine, a beautiful one. Here's a look at our three big things. We're in the midst of a long dry stretch. We had that over the weekend. It's going to continue pretty much all week long. There's not going to be any rain until late next weekend, if then. No fall-like temperatures at or above normal. And then maybe a little cooler weather next week. It's not going to get cold, but maybe not quite as warm as what we've had out there this week. Let's go to Cadillac. A live look there right now, 77 degrees. You can see the longer shadows here as we get a little closer to sunset, but clear skies there. Cadillac earlier did reach 79. Grayling and Big Rapids, 82 degrees today. And if you're wondering where does that compare to normal, well, I have just the graphic to show you. That's the departure from normal for today. So let's pick Cody, which city do you like on there? Go ahead and pick one. All right, Cadillac, Cody said. That was 14 degrees above normal. That's 79 today. So that gives you an idea. Sheboygan also had a temperature 14 degrees above normal. It's not just us. Look around the Midwest. Fargo, North Dakota, right now is 91. Chicago earlier was in the upper 80s, close to 90 at Peoria, Illinois. We are going to cool a little bit this week, and there's the reason why that front up over Lake Superior is going to drop through here tonight. It's not going to bring in any rain or anything like that, but it'll pull our wind in more out of the east. And so again, midweek, more in the way of 60s expected. There's our satellite picture tonight. Yeah, nice. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on. We'll see a few cirrus clouds drifting in, but here's the story moving forward. Dry tomorrow. There's Wednesday, a little more cloud cover Wednesday, partly cloudy on Thursday, and the long-range rain forecast out through next week, through next Sunday, really not anything. You have to head north and west of us. Here's the extended forecast. Again, dry, no real weather issues, a bit cooler midweek, Cody, but as we get toward the next weekend, warming right back up, pretty quiet.
Real warm. I'll take it. Thank you, Joe. And that does bring us to our second break of the show. When we get back, we'll check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe about what happened over the weekend and what's still on tap. Keep it here. Welcome back to Unscripted, and as we get our work week started, we also get the chance to look at our prep plays of the week. So as we get ready to do that, let's bring in our sports director, Harrison Beebe from the Content Center. Harrison.
That's right, Cody. I've been spending a lot of time analyzing this week's plays and checking the polls to see who's going to win. We've still got a little under 4 more hours to vote, but here's your up-to-date polling numbers. And it looks like your leader in the clubhouse right now is Pine River's Grady Moore. He had a big interception late against Everett to really seal up that victory for the Bucks at home. But Petoskey's Frederick Hollerback right there in the mix at 29%. Inland Lakes, Andre Bradford, 23%. And if you want to show some love to TCUS, Aiden Jacobs, and Cadillac's Trey Sparks, they're right there in the single digits, but a lot can change. This poll's been up for about 2 hours, and a lot can change in the next 4 hours or so to really get a final winner. We want you at home to scan that QR code. You can even view the plays. You asked Cody if we were going to show the plays. You can scan the QR code to view the all top 5 plays yourself and vote at home, on your phone, online, wherever you access the internet, and we will have that winner tonight during Sports at 11.
Yeah, I love that. We'll keep an eye out for that. And on the professional side of the gridiron, the Lions just got a big win, and look at them. It's nice to see them at the top of the leaderboard in the NFC North.
Right. 3 weeks ago after that loss to the Packers at Lambeau, who would have thought right here by the end of September, they would be the ones on top of the division. But thanks to winning 3 straight and the Packers looking kind of subpar here the last 2 weeks with a loss to the Browns and a tie with the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Yeah, that is the situation for the Lions. It's just 3 weeks later, they are back on top of the NFC North where they want to be.
Yeah, it's always nice, despite how the beginning of the season went. It's nice to beat the team that just beat the Packers, and the Packers, like you said, in that tie. So the Tigers didn't get the AL Central, even though they were 15.5 games up at one point, but they're in the playoffs. That's the good news, yeah?
Well, in my opinion, they did share the AL Central. They're co-champs because they had the same record as the Guardians, but the Guardians had the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think they cut a trophy for that, so you don't have to worry about who's going
Fortunately
to share
not, I
it.
wish.
But this is your playoff schedule. We're going to see the 3rd week in a row, the Tigers and Guardians. This series all in Cleveland due to the way the wild card round works. Game 1 will be tomorrow. Game 2 will be Wednesday. Game 3, if necessary, because the winner of this best 2 of 3 advances, would be Thursday, and the winner would advance this weekend to start a series with the Seattle Mariners.
All right, I won't be walking by any broken mirrors or anything. Playoffs are here, so it's time to give them all of our luck. Thank you for joining us, Harrison. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we get back, we'll take one last look at our question of the day. Stay with us.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Welcome back to Unscripted, where every day we do ask a question of the day. And after the horrific attack at a church in Grand Blanc, yesterday morning. Our question of the day today is, has your church implemented any safety measures? As of right now, 48% of people say yes, 52% of people responding no. There's still time to vote. If you'd like, you can scan the QR code. You can head to our website, UpNorthLive.com, or vote on Facebook. If you did already vote, thanks for voting, and thanks for joining us this evening on Unscripted. Have a great night.